Stanley Kubrick is without a doubt a cinematic genius. 2001, A Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket, he even faked the moon landing. But even though his creativity and masterful cinematography can be questioned, I think The Shining might actually be a remake of one of the worst horror movies ever made. At this point, I think everyone knows that Stephen King pretty openly doesn't like The Shining. And he didn't like it so much that he wrote the screenplay for the 1997 remake miniseries that was an almost identical adaptation of the book. And it wasn't that he hated The Shining as a movie, he just didn't think it was the same story that he wrote. And he was right, because when you compare it side by side, they're really not the same story at all. The overall story might feel the same, but only in the way the Dawn of the Dead movies do. They have the same title, and they're both about people hiding in a mall during the zombie apocalypse, but if it had a different name and they were in a place that wasn't a mall, you probably wouldn't think Snyder's movie was even a remake. Now, the same thing applies to The Shining. The book and the movie are both about Jack Torrance and his family watching an empty hotel and supernatural things start to happen. But the characters don't act the same, the supernatural things that happen are very different, and when you compare it to the 97 miniseries, it's obvious that all the iconic things you remember were created by Kubrick. The twins, the bloody elevator, the hedge maze, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy, and even Here's Johnny can only be found in the movie. Now, I don't know if he actually faked the moon landing, but he might have done something equally amazing when he made The Shining. Manos: The Hands of Fate is universally considered one of the worst horror movies ever. But I think Kubrick might have secretly remade it and just never told anyone that he did.
Whoa.
You have to remember that Manos is basically the 1960s version of Birdemic, and even though it was made 15 years before The Shining, no one even knew it existed until 1993 when it was on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Now let's compare both stories so you can decide if I've discovered another mysterious thing about The Shining, or maybe I just have a habit of recognizing similarities in movies that don't have anything to do with each other. The long shot is something that Kubrick is known for, and because the average shot length in The Shining is about 12 seconds, he's able to create so much mystery and suspense just using the camera. Even though the cinematography comes across as awkward, Manos was using noticeably long shots too, years before Kubrick made it his trademark. Now it can be argued that Warren only did this because he was filming on a camera that only had 32-second rolls of film, so it was better to just use the remaining film instead of trying to squeeze in another scene, but the long shot is one of the many strange similarities that both movies have. There was also an interesting similarity with the budget. The Shining had a $19 million budget and Manos was made for $19,000. Now I know these are very different numbers, but the 19 is another strange similarity. Both movies start with a sweeping view of the surrounding environment, a family of 3 on a road trip, and during the ride, both kids complain about being hungry and the parents basically dismiss it.
I'm hungry.
Well, you should have eaten your breakfast.
I'm getting cold, Mother, and hungry.
Never mind, Mike. Debbie can come up and sit between us.
Even though The Shining is considered a horror movie, it's actually more of a mystery thriller than anything else. And because so much of the movie is supposed to be left ambiguous, the small amount of explanation we get is given to us by Dick Halloran. The lack of explanation in Manos has more to do with undeveloped writing than it does intentional ambiguity, but it uses the groundkeeper Torgo to tell us about the dangers in the hotel the same way The Shining uses Dick Halloran. In both movies, the kid is the first one to see the ghost and the experience changes their behavior. After Danny sees the twins and then the woman in room 237, he spends the majority of the rest of the movie in bed and in the semi-comatose state. Now Debbie actually finds the master and his wives, and after she goes back to her parents, she spends most of the rest of the movie laying down just like Danny did. Both dads kiss a ghost woman and she turns aggressive after it happens. Jack finds a naked woman in room 237 and he decides to kiss her because why not, right? But just as he's starting to enjoy it, she turns into a zombie and tries to attack him. One of the wives finds Michael's unconscious body and she decides to kiss him. But then she has a sudden mood swing and starts slapping him for no real reason. The husband is easily knocked out by a much weaker person and just as easily escapes imprisonment. Jack tries to attack Wendy because he thinks she's too weak to fight him back, but she knocks him out and locks him in the pantry. When he wakes up, he has a conversation with the ghost and the locked door opens on its own. Torgo sneaks up behind Michael and easily knocks him out with his staff, and then he ties him up to a tree outside. But when Michael wakes up, he just as easily unties himself and is able to escape. The husband breaks through a door to get to his wife and kids.
Wendy?
The hotel's caretaker walks with a severe limp.
Danny boy?
Someone shows up to help, but they don't actually help. Dick Halloran responds to Danny's psychic distress signal, but when he comes to the hotel, he gets killed as soon as he shows up. 2 police officers hear gunshots coming from the hotel, and they don't even bother to investigate before they give up and go home. The husband is stuck at the hotel. Jack freezes to death chasing Danny in the snow, but the final photo suggests that he'll be stuck in the hotel just like the other ghost. After he tries to kill the master and fails, Michael is stuck at the hotel and takes Torgo's place as the new caretaker. Manos: The Hands of Fate deserves its reputation as the worst horror movie of all time, just as The Shining deserves its reputation as the best. And the scary part is, they're basically the same movie. So what do you think? Did Kubrick copy many of the details from Manos: The Hands of Fate? Or are all these similarities just a coincidence?